Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, folks. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio, and we're at a point in the program where we are going through I guess we'll call it the laundry list of complaints that coaches have about parents, and we're starting to run down on time here, so I'm going to try to get through some more of these if we can. The second big complaint that we had gotten is that parents don't really care about playing time except as it pertains to their own kid. And you know what? I think, all of us as parents, I'll say it, we're all guilty of this one. Let's be realistic. We can talk about playing time as much as we like, but you know what? As long as our kids are getting enough playing time, we all keep our mouths shut, and that's a fact. It's only when we think our kid should be playing more that we open our mouths and start to complain. Think about it. You ever hear anybody complain, hey, you know what? Hey, Bob, my kid hasn't come out of the game yet. Don't you think somebody else deserves a chance? Well, listen, we as parents got to keep in mind that managing playing time is probably the most difficult thing a coach has to do, at least until high school or elite travel programs kick in. And why is that? You probably know the answer. When you get to high school and elite levels, there just aren't any more rules about playing time. If your kid isn't good enough, he or she doesn't play, period. And if you don't like it, sign up for the chess club. Go somewhere else. I mean, coaches don't have to be politically correct when it comes to playing time when these kids get to a certain age. But at the younger ages, think about it. The coach's job is tough enough trying to balance playing time with winning a few games. So imagine how much harder this gets when you got parents like us screaming for wins on one side of the equation, and you got another group of parents that are screaming for equality and trophies for everybody. It's a very, very difficult line to walk at best, based on just the sheer dichotomy of parent behavior. A coach is never going to make everybody happy. Any decision you make as it pertains to playing time and winning and losing is going to piss off roughly half of the people in the stands. And maybe that's why coaches seem a little more callous about it, and they really got to stand their own ground and do what's best for them. You try to satisfy both sides of the equation, and guess what? You piss off 100% of the people. So when it comes to playing time, ask yourself if you can be objective about it. I think that's a better way to look at it before you complain about playing time. Now, this one I liked because coaches were complaining about parents who push their kids too hard. And a lot of us think, well, that's not the coach's responsibility. It really shouldn't matter to him how I treat my own kid. But let me walk you through this from the coach's perspective. We as coaches walk a very fine line between, just ourselves. We walk a fine line between pushing kids and motivating kids. That's a tough one. And sometimes we cross that line. But think about it now. When a parent steps into this equation, we coaches see this, I'm telling you, as nothing more than unnecessary additional pressure from an undue source. Plain and simple. An overbearing parent literally has zero positive impact on a kid. None, regardless of what you may think. So try to follow this really simple rule. If you want to push your kid, I can't stop you from pushing your kid. But push him when you work out with them. But when it's game time, keep your coaching comments to yourself. Besides the factor of pressure, let me explain to you that nothing, and trust me, nothing that you shout from the stands is going to be corrected then and there on the spot. So you're literally wasting your time anyway. Now, on top of that, if you're a parent, this should be an easy question to answer. Do you really think your kid wants to be criticized by you regardless? Much less criticized loudly and publicly during a game where there are other people in the stands? I mean, get a grip. Your kids hate it when you do that. And if you really think that you're having a positive impact by shouting stuff at your kid from the stands, you better know that your kid hates it when you come to the games. Period. Now, I don't want to miss this one, and we got about 10 minutes left here in the show. This one is parents who think that their kids are better than they really are. Well, if you don't think this is true, ask yourself this. If you're at a game, and this is one that I just came up with not long ago, and it's kind of an aha moment for parents. If you're not sure you're one of these idiots that just doesn't think your kid does anything wrong, ask yourself this. If you're at a game and your kid makes a mistake, don't you usually say to yourself, or perhaps even to everybody else around you, she's better than that. She normally makes that play. We all do. Well, now I'll ask the follow-up question. What do you say when someone else's kid makes a mistake? Especially if that kid may be playing the position that your kid usually plays or wants to play. What do you hear usually? Oh, come on. Why is that kid playing in that position? That was an easy play. As I say over and over again, staying objective about your own kid is something most of us as parents just can't do. And I don't even think coaches expect any different. What I'm saying is try to catch yourself from time to time. And again, if you look at it through the eyes of the coach and try to stay objective, you might perhaps understand why your kid doesn't play every inning of every game at shortstop. The mistake you saw as, well, he's better than that. The coach may look at that and say, well, that's a mistake that he or she made 3 different times during the week at practice, and it obviously isn't sinking in, so it's time for us to move little Bobby or little Jimmy. Like I said, next time you're at a game, put that little one in your bag of tricks, and seriously, when your kid makes a mistake, think about your reaction versus when another kid makes a mistake, and I think you're going to learn a lot about yourself. Now, the last one that was on the list from the coach's list of complaints is when parents try to, in not always such a subtle fashion, explain what position their kids ought to be playing. Now, whenever I talk about this, most coaches smile when I talk to them about this one, because I will tell you, no matter how subtle we all try to be when we drop these little hints, every coach, and I mean every coach, knows exactly what we're trying to say long before the words come out. It's like a 6th grade boy trying to ask a girl out. You stumble over it and you finally get it out, and it's kind of amusing. But what we as parents need to understand is that while we have, and this is an important point, so please listen to this one, while we as parents have the luxury of worrying about only our own kid and what's best for them, the coach has to worry about the whole team and what's best for the entire group of kids. And sometimes that means putting your kid in the outfield or on the bench. Now also, just because your daughter, let's say, has been a world-class shortstop since she was an embryo, as her parent, you've got a very insulated and confined view of her. Sometimes a coach can see maybe that, guess what? Your daughter's growing up and she's getting tall and lanky and she's really fast and she has a cannon for an arm. Maybe a kid like that is well served playing right field. Maybe this move isn't only best for the team, but it might even be in the best interest of your kid. But because we've always seen her do so well at shortstop, we got our blinders on, and we sometimes aren't seeing the big picture. In some cases, you're talking about the fact that maybe your kid could be a recruit as a right fielder, where if she stays at shortstop, she may be nothing more than an average player at best. I guess the message here is don't just jump to complaining about where your kid is playing, but try to get your arms around why the coach is putting her there. Kirk from Chicago said it really well earlier in the show. This is not a fairness discussion. This is not an opinion discussion. This is a philosophy discussion. So instead of saying, my daughter doesn't belong here, you might be well served, if you have to get involved, asking, why is she there? Take it away from why isn't she here, but why is she there? And you may really learn something if you question instead of complain. All right, any of this stuff sinking through? Anybody just think I'm full of crap? All right. You know what? I'm going to go on a quick little rant about Manny Ramirez before we get out of here today, because while I was not surprised to hear about Manny Ramirez getting caught again, I was pissed off. And I got to tell you, the reason I'm pissed is because I say it all the time. I hate being right all the time. When the substance abuse policy for major leagues came out, and the first instance of getting caught resulted in this little slap on the wrist, and then it was followed up with a 100-game suspension. If any of you remember the show, what did I say? This slap on the wrist is going to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. If somebody wants to take the chance on throwing their career in the toilet or injecting it in their arm or their butt, they're going to do it anyway. So Manny Ramirez gets caught once, signs this, what I'll call the settlement of a $2 million deal with the Rays, and what happens next? He's looking to have a breakout year so he can go pad his ego and his bank account. So what does he do? Sticks the needle in his butt again. Again. What a dope. Listen, Bud Selig, you want to solve the problem here? You really want to solve the problem? Adopt a great new policy. It's called strike one, you're out. And any baseball player can understand that. You get caught taking any performance-enhancing drugs that we can positively test for, guess what? You just literally threw your career away. It'll happen once, and then it will never happen again. I'm hoping Manny Ramirez throwing $2 million down the toilet maybe has some impact on this. I ain't holding my breath because you know what? A younger kid can probably sit out 100 games and live off the $2 million they made last year to just come back and take another crack at it. But you take a kid who just signed and is looking to make his break, and they take steroids or HGH or anything else, and you tell him, congratulations, buddy. The next time you're in this stadium, it's if you're selling hot dogs and nothing else. And I promise you, you're going to see a dramatic impact on this whole substance abuse scandal that still affects. I mean, God, Barry Bonds is sitting in a freaking court, deciding, his future. And you got idiots like Manny Ramirez who decide, I'll just go give it a shot myself. Beyond insulting to our intelligence as fans and as people in general. So I got to tell you, owners, what, with all the stuff that's going on, Bud Selig, if you're listening, which you're not, but that's okay. You really want to solve this problem? Take the bone out of your head, stick it in your back, and make a really tough decision. Somebody gets caught taking this stuff, you bounce them out of the game, and you bounce them out forever. For every Manny Ramirez, there are so many guys that are just dying for their shot at it, guys. I'm telling you. Well, listen, there's your little pearl of wisdom from Coach Tony from this Saturday. Hey, listen, guys, as always, a pleasure. Great emails. Love to get the calls. Be sure to check me out at www.heycoachtony.com. And, again, be sure to join me every Saturday at 9 a.m. on ESPN Radio for Hey Coach Tony. We'll see you next week.